Intellectually engaging to think outside the lines with conversation about the nation that never leaves you blind. Take a listen and pay attention. Here is where you find the educational, sensational meeting of the minds. Yeah, it's the meeting of the minds. Meeting of the minds.
Thank you for watching Meeting of the Minds. I am C'est La Vie, and today's topic is Protect and Serve. Let me introduce you to our guest for this amazing conversation that I'm very convinced will be very powerful, to say the least. I am going to go in order by how I met, who I met first. We have DeQuint Hill with us in the house, yes, hey. And a little background information. I was going to HT, and there was a lady that worked there that wanted me to mentor her daughter. And so I started, and that happens a lot. Like they call me the child whisperer. Like I love youth. I love youth. Yeah. And so I was like, sure, yeah, I'll mentor your daughter. And so she had a boyfriend, and the boyfriend's best friend was DeQuint. And so they were like, hey, can they come too? And I was like, yeah, they can come too. So I picked all three of them up, and I used to go to this boxing gym. So we went by the boxing gym, and so they were like, we want to do this or whatever, and they threw on some gloves. And DeQuint here showed a major natural ability to throw hands.
Yes. Way to put that.
Yeah. And so we're like, okay, young man, and so from that moment, I would like call them, and like he was all the way out in Manor. I would go and swoop them up and take them to go boxing. And he's in boxing now, getting ready to do some major things. And also, when we were driving there, a lot of you know that I dabble in the arts of emceeing. And so they would be like, Sayla, you want to listen to our CD? You want to listen to our CD? And people always want me to listen to their CD, and oh man, it's just like, oh God. And so I was like, yeah, okay. And so I threw on their CD, and it was rather good. Yeah. And they called themselves Team Next. They were so cute. They had like turquoise and purple, right? Like that was their colors. And I was a little, when you're young 20 and they're teen, you feel like you're so much older than them, and so I felt like I was majorly older than them. But I was like, okay, Team Next. And they like were spitting, and I was like, usually I am very, very strict on what I find as good. And so I'm like, okay, young bucks. And so I began to tag them along with me. And so we have history there, long history, and it's major love. And so I have him here on the show talking about Protect and Serve, not only because of his own personal encounters with APD, but also he lost his mother in a very suspicious interaction involving APD as well. So he will be the insight speaking about that. So then after that, I met Erica. At a activist event. It was actually following the Austin terrorist attack. I call it terrorist attack because that's what the community of color here in Austin, Texas call it. I know they like to attribute that only to Middle Easterns. But terrorism is terrorism. Active terror is active terror. Speaking of Middle Eastern, Erica is half Middle Eastern. Therefore, we're practically cousins.
Yes, we are related.
Right. And so I saw Erica, and the minute I saw her, I knew that I wanted to have her on the show. I have invited police officers before because I wanted to show youth how to interact with officers. Sometimes because at a young age there's a dynamic being made that there's a bad interaction between principals and bad interaction between teachers, and there's a hostility there. It crosses over into authority. Anybody of authority, there's but I wanted to show them, you treat an officer like how you treat your principal or teacher. It might go completely different. And interacting different from the jump can cause a whole different situation, right? And so I wanted to have an assimilation. We brought the officers, we brought the youth, and then it went left.
Oof.
And I have it all on camera. I'll show it to you
Oof.
afterwards.
Okay.
And so
I bet.
we come to this moment that I'm talking to the officers, and I'm like, so I've been telling my kids that, because they say that they feel like sometimes they get stopped unjustly. Like, that's what they say, right? They say, I get stopped for nothing. And you'll give us more insight on that, too. And I told them that they could say, like, am I suspected of something? Have I done something wrong? And if they say no, then you can say, well, may I go? And if they say yes, then you have to show your ID. But I teach them not to be hostile in any shape, form, or fashion. Like, see, well, if I'm not, may I? And talk to them. And we practice it and practice it and practice it. But the officer was like, no, they just need to show their ID. And then I would say, and I have this all on camera, and you'll probably maybe even know the officers. And there were two were men of color, and no, 3 of them. One was Hispanic, 2 were black.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And so they said, no, you just need to comply. And then I got quiet, and I wanted to just let it go. And your girl.
Of course not.
So I was like, well, let's reiterate. Like, is it not the law? Is it the law that I can ask, have I done anything wrong? Am I suspected of something? Mm-hmm. And if they say no, can they not say, may I go? And they're like, yeah, but you don't want to do that. You don't want no problems. And I'm like, that's the problem.
Yep.
That the law is this, and you're saying,
no.
I don't want no problems.
Yeah.
And we went back and forth, like maybe 6 times. You'll watch it. And one of the officers was just like irate with me. He was like fuming.
Oh, huffing and puffing.
Extra.
It got real. It got real fast.
God.
And so it was a lost cause. And I was like, wow, I brought them to demonstrate something different. And it went left, right? Mm-hmm. So the minute I saw you, I was like, there's a solution. There's an answer to it, because your aura just tells me, like, the conversation will go the way that it needs to. And there will be the things that I originally wanted to come out will have the opportunity to do that here. And it'll be a great place to start. And for me to even let that thing go and make room again for officers as well. I've done counseling in the prison for a long time, and I've interacted with officers of all different kinds. And so I have my own personal ideology about that. So, yes, Erica is with us, and Danielle. Danielle.
Yes.
In the house with us. So then that brings me to Rebecca. So, Rebecca, say your last name, because I don't want to make a mistake.
Dejan.
Okay. Where is that?
French. So I'm from the Caribbean. Okay. We're Haitian.
All right. There you go. So I didn't want to say it wrong. Make sure we said it right. So that brings me to Erica. So Erica, I was a tag along. Oh, no, I shouldn't say that. Okay. So
filter some of that.
There was let's just say I was in the car during a Lyft ride.
There you go.
And
shared ride.
Shared
ride.
There you go, right. And so she got into the car. And so it's something I can't explain. If you're affiliated in the same circles, like if you know Fatima Man or if you know Christina, it's like something, it's just the same fabric and you just know it. So I started to be like, hi, how are you? What do you do? And then, oh, lo and behold. And so we were like, let's do the show. And we're like, yeah, let's do it. And she was like, mention Erica. I was like, I've been trying to get Erica on the show. And so we're like, Saturday? Yeah, Saturday. So here we are.
Mind you, that was 2 days ago.
2 days ago.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, and so we're like, let's make it happen.
Yeah.
And so before we jump right in, I want to say people might be judging me like who I pick on the panel or something. I want people to know it's very organic. Down to the last minute, sometimes I don't know who's going to be on the show because I am following the divine flow of things to find out who is supposed to be there. So please don't judge me. We get down to the last minute. Who is on the show is absolutely who's supposed to be on the show. Believe that. So if you say, oh, there's only one guy or there should have been another girl, this is how the universe made it happen. This is how God made it happen through the universe for those of you that are linguistically like extra. So now let's get started. So we're going to start with you, Erica. After what I said about the police officers, I don't know. I'm going to be very honest. For some reason, I have encountered a lot of police officers with a certain type of personality. I don't know if it's the A-type personality that goes for that type of job, because I couldn't do it. Everybody would get off with a free pass. Like, so what is that, a cultural thing?
So you hit it on the head. So a lot of times when there is recruiting of police officers, there is a type of personality that is drawn to policing. Usually military background, people that want to like make a difference in their community, chase bad guys, that type of thing, right? So the personality is very alpha, I guess is the best way to put it. Very alpha. When you mix a alpha personality into a police culture where there is rules and then there's laws and there's things, there's power. There's power there. You have the alpha with the power. It becomes this different dynamic, this dynamic that is not very tasteful all the time, especially when we're talking about, you know, going out into the community and having what police culture calls like the touchy-feely pieces of policing, where you have to communicate. You have to know how to relate to people that are around you. You have to be seen as a human. That thing they didn't sign up for. What they signed up for was to chase bad guys, go find robbers, those type of things. So it doesn't, it's something that I hear all the time about interactions with police officers. There's this alpha, there's this power, and you got to do as we say type of like conversation that happens. And it, obviously, in my perspective, it just needs to change.
But, you know, I don't know if it's the alpha, because, like, I take you as an alpha personality. Like, the alphas that I know, they don't have to overflex, you know? Like,
True.
The alphas that I know, they know that they're a lion and they could rip your head off, so they don't have to. It's almost like the ones that want to be the alpha. Like, you don't overextend yourself. You know you're you're a leader. You know that. So you don't do extra feather showing, you know, like, you know how some...
I do with my shirt.
Yeah. You know, so maybe it's because they're not alpha and because they have to overcompensate.
That could be a piece of it too. I think there's a spectrum there. You are dealing with people that, you know, innately want to do something that is powerful, right? And however they get there, we're talking about different realities. We're talking about different people, different perspectives, different situations, different upbringings, right? So it could be somebody that was bullied in high school, and this is their way of exerting some sort of power. It could be that, you know, it runs the gamut, right? So just from my perspective, I know what inherently happens in police culture. There is power. There's power there. There is a alpha personality that permeates through police culture. However that is positioned.
They want to position
right?
it, yeah.
However they want to
show and demonstrate alpha.
However they want to position that is, you know, based on their reality.
Yeah.
But there is a power piece and there is a alpha piece. And those things intermingling and then trying to make these folks into community policing law professionals. The reform has to happen basically at recruiting, and we have to get to the point where we recognize that these are the things that are usually inherently in police culture, and we have to figure out how to fix that. But yeah, it's I get it, and a lot of people say that about me. I know that I have it. I call it like the inner goddess or the inner warrior, right? She's there. She's chilling. She's over there like, you know, rocking in her rocking chair like, I wish would. I wish she would. But she doesn't come out unless she absolutely has to. If everybody is being amicable or at the same time, if there is somebody that is exerting energy, and that energy could be potentially negative at that situation, they're yelling because they're getting out their emotions. She's still rocking in a rocking chair because she understands that this is what they need to do to calm down. And a lot of times in police culture, we have this tendency to try to just take over the scenario, which means you come on scene and you tell people to shut up, sit down, so they can try to get control of all of these people. When in fact, maybe, just maybe, you can just take a step back, as long as no one is hitting, another person, and allow them to let it out.
Release.
Right? And then insert yourself into that situation at the right time. I think we kind of fail at recognizing that we don't have to exert right off the bat. And that, to me, is linked to all of these things, this power and this alpha. I need to make sure that, I am taking control. For me, control is making sure that everybody goes home safely. That's control to me.
Understanding is control to me. I definitely feel that. You know what I'm saying? That sounds like a peace officer to me.
Yes.
Absolutely. I would say what you said reminds me of a leader that leads with empathy and not ego, right? And so understanding how to respond to a situation because you're coming from an empathetic place, not I need to control, I need to diffuse, I need people to fear me.
Yeah.
I actually want to understand what they're going through and allow them to have that organic moment.
Yeah, the uniform itself brings a different vibe, right? And we all know that now. Now the uniform, because of social media, because of stories that have been put out, it brings a negative thing, right? Yeah. So it's up to the police agency to figure out how to be mindful of that happening, right? Just the uniform itself can make things escalate. Right? They have already cooled down and then by the time we get there, what are you doing here? Right? So you have to be a mindful law professional is what I call myself. A mindful law professional, knowing that maybe just, taking some steps back and just saying, hey, just let it out, bro. I'm gonna be over here in the corner. Just let it out. And then give them a few minutes, and then if they call me over, or I'll go over in a couple of minutes and just say, hey, okay, so what's up? And then just kind of gauging from there. But yeah, it's a very interesting thing to be in, because I didn't see myself being a police officer. I saw myself being a professor somewhere in a university with really cool bow ties. I have this thing about bow ties. And my hair being grayed out and just being like a silver fox getting out of an old Mercedes. I had a whole
scenario.
I had a whole scenario, right? I had a whole scenario of Dr. Huxtable, but a really, really cool version of Dr. Huxtable.
But you're so needed. We can't deny, officers are needed. If somebody's catching a beat down, somebody's beating their wife or something, I'm not going over there. But somebody does need to go over there, right?
Right.
So at the end of the day, there needs to be those things available. Now, I do take it further. I think sometimes communities should have those things available within themselves, but that's a whole nother topic we'll get into. But I wanted to ask you, DeQuint, and then we'll go over to Becca as well. If off top of your head, what are some scenarios, some interactions you could tell us that you've had maybe with APD in the past? Experiences that you've experienced. What is that dynamic? What does that transition look? That interaction look like?
It's real typical, to be honest. Just being somewhere, just being still having dreads, having tattoos, being black. Just basically, when I interact with the police, I learned that basically I can't talk, I can't do nothing, and at any given time, my freedom can be taken away from me because whatever they feeling. However they woke up this morning determines my freedom. And however they've been trained to look at me determines how I'm gonna be. It doesn't matter how well I can articulate myself like she does or look as well as anybody, but with the I feel like them profiting off of me looking the way I look and making it make sense for me to be where I'm at is where I end up, or many people like me end up
It's okay. Yeah.
where they at. So like I can be in a car not doing nothing, get pulled over, and I have dread. So the stigma, like I smoke marijuana because I have dread. So therefore I could not be I've been in a car not driving and been took to jail because I was in a car and I look like I smoke weed, but I don't have no weed on me. And so therefore I'm having a conversation, which I'm supposed to be able to have with a peace officer, and I get detained. And that happened like I do wrong. I have done wrong or got caught doing stuff wrong, but a lot of times I've been in trouble, I don't do nothing. And it's just because of, is it because I'm dequint or is it because I'm black? And that's just simply the ends of it. Like ever since I was in high school, down to the what's it called, the school office or whatever. The kids at Sagging might not be the baddest kid at the school, but he's the ones that's gonna get followed around, get his locker searched, et cetera, not knowing like he don't got no parents at home, or he can't even afford a belt, or he,
Doesn't have a meal.
you feel me? You know what I'm saying? Like he got personal stuff going on to make him look like that. But for some reason, for whatever reason, they look at this type of kid or this stereotype of identity and refer it to something negative. And it's just I can't run from it. Like I'm black, I'm gonna look the way I look. I can put a collar shirt on, a tie on, I'm still gonna be black. I'm still gonna have dreads, and I'm still gonna be depicted or, you know what I'm saying, stereotype of what I am, or regardless of my nature or talking to me or not.
Because I've been doing this a long time, I know what the rebuttals of people is, right? And so we're going to address both sides of it. So let's say, for example, like you have this shirt on, right? So there's somebody watching out there that would use the argument. They're like, look, if I saw you with a shirt on that has smoke blowing out the mouth like that, I might assume that you might smoke weed. But the reality is this. If a white kid with dreadlocks with a picture of smoke coming out his shirt, like let's say a white kid had the same shirt on with a white kid blowing smoke and dreadlocks, the reception will be very, very different. Have y'all seen the David Chappelle thing that he's like, a cop comes up to them and he interacts with the cop so differently, but his white friend Chip walks up to the cop and he's high and he's like talking to the officer, and the officer's like, he's trying to ask for directions while he's high, and David Chappelle just can't believe it. And the cop goes, hey, you're on 3rd Street. And David Chappelle's mind is just blown because like that just would never happen that way for them. He would never have that type of courage to interact with the officer when he's feeling like that. So I know that there are people who would think that, well, look, if you didn't dress like that, you wouldn't be asking for trouble. But if we had a hippie that had dreadlocks and had smoke,
it's trendy when, like, I don't want to be like a them and they, but if I walk out the house looking like me, it's a problem. If they walk out the house looking like me, it's popular, it's culture. You know what I'm saying? But like, it doesn't matter like what I look like. They can get pulled over and have marijuana on them and get a ticket. I'm gonna get took to jail. I'm gonna get enhanced charges. I'm gonna get beat up on the way. I'm gonna like. There's just so many different ways. Like, I didn't experience it. Like I didn't seen people have like coke or have guns and get like $1,000 bond. I didn't got caught with like a gram of weed and be in jail for weeks. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't even make sense. Now I ain't even talking. It doesn't even make sense. You know what I'm saying? Like somebody in Westlake can get in trouble for, or might not get in trouble because their area not even being patrolled because crime ain't even being reported. Not saying that it's not being done, it's just not being watched over there. So therefore the ratio of a white person getting looked at for the same crime ain't even the same. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like because everybody over here on the east, or not even the east side no more, on the north side, Pflugerville, or you know what I'm saying? You get what I'm saying? It's like all the police should be over here looking at it, what we doing over here, but you don't never hear about the white man choking his wife or overdosing on coke or selling pills to everybody. Like drugs is everywhere. Violence is everywhere. Crime is everywhere.
Right.
There's no race or that doesn't do crime or don't do wrong because people right and wrong. But the problem is that we look at a certain type of people and point problems to them as if the problem ain't equal everywhere. Like drugs, people can, the same way broke people can buy drugs, rich people can buy drugs. The same way people, poor, black, Mexican, or whatever, can fight and have domestic violence, white people can have the same thing, or rich or privileged people can. But the problem is, it's not policed or policed the same.
Do you think that there's a cultural difference too? Like, I'm gonna be honest, right? Like, if I go to a predominantly black church, the volume is gonna be escalated in praise and worship. If I go to a predominantly white church, the quieter they talk, the more holy that they are, right? The louder you talk, the more you're in touch with Jesus. The lower you talk, the more they're like, if you turn with us to page, right? So maybe it's like a cultural thing too, you know. I know one time we were standing with a group of POC and cops came over because they thought that there was a fight going on, but it was having a great time. The volume was just loud and they thought that people were fighting. So maybe it's a cultural, the mannerisms are different, and the
educational understanding of culture
is different, and there's a curve for that. I see you. Are you thinking of something on that point?
Absolutely. I mean, I've been a victim of police brutality. This happened to me in 2010, right here in Austin, APD. And I was responding to a situation where, of course, things can get escalated, as you mentioned, right? And instead of the officers kind of coming to observe, they automatically thought I was a threat. And I was actually beat up by 3 male officers. Ended up spending a night in jail. Had a year of court dates because I wanted to get my record expunged, of course. I was in my MBA program at the time. My parents begged me to go to the NAACP. And because of where I was in the city where I knew that my voice probably would not be heard, I refused. I was like, you know what? I was probably at the time working for a dominantly white company, right? I don't want that associated with, you know, who I am as a person. So taking that back to culture, you know, yeah, we can be a bit louder at times, right? If things are not going in the way that we expect them to, maybe we escalate our voices, or, you know, we want to be heard. But that doesn't mean that someone's a threat or someone is going to be violent, right? Maybe I'm just projecting my voice because, you know, someone is actually disrespecting me. And that night, I was actually being attacked by someone else. And so I was just trying to defend myself. But because I spoke up, because I seemed enraged, the police officers automatically thought that I was a threat. So definitely, I think goes back to the cultural differences and not understanding how to address that.
I'm going to be very transparent, which I kind of don't want to be transparent about this, but
Please do.
Please
do.
Where the spirit of truth is, there's liberty. Right?
Okay.
Yep.
So the night I graduated from Houston Tillotson University with the highest GPA in psychology and philosophy, I went to jail that night.
Oh God!
I went to jail that night.
Come back down.
There was an altercation in front of an establishment, and like I was kind of just there, you know, actually kind of diffusing the thing, and the officer asked everyone for their IDs. And I didn't care. I was like, here's my ID. I had like a parking violation or something like that. Like a little violation that I didn't even know. Like I had forgotten completely about or something. I went to jail. You going to jail. You going to jail today. Wow. And the guy was so like the interaction was just terrible. And then my last name, my birth last name, it's very similar to the word is very similar to a Middle Eastern organization that is a threat to America, and he drew the sounding comparison to it, and I knew it was game at that point. So yeah. I was like, okay, it's about to go bad for me, and but the good news was I felt like, you know, I always tell y'all the divine is setting up. There was a young lady in there that thought she had killed somebody during drunk driving, and because I was there, I got to hold her and beat it. So I was like, okay, I see why this had to happen to me.
Thank you.
That's exactly how I see my situation, because now I have measure, right? And so that's one of the things that we talked about when we met.
Yeah. And we're gonna jump into measure a little bit later on coming. But just for the record, I look good because I look so good on graduation night. I was like taking my pictures for the mugshot. I look so good. I had glitter on my eyes. I'm telling you.
Probably had the most beautiful
People were trying to holler at me in jail. I was like, ugh.
Little girl.
man.
Genie in the bottle.
And y'all know it's cold. It is cold.
Oh
They
my
keep
gosh,
it
it's so cold.
cold
Yeah.
in there. All right, we don't want to go revisit that. But it's good for me because if this is the work that I'm gonna do, I need to see firsthand.
Experience
Yep.
that.
Because I've
Yep.
counseled in the prison, but to be on the inside and see certain things going down and how they interact with people is like,
Yeah, I ain't going back to jail. Tell you that.
well, I'm thankful. Well, I pray that that's true. I pray that that's true. But from what we're discovering, like you said, you might not even be doing anything wrong, and you say that.
exactly.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like, I won't do anything to help them
Okay.
help me get in jail if that's the case.
Right. Like Sandra Bland.
Yep.
They asked her to put a cigarette out. She was right. I'm in my vehicle. I don't have to put a cigarette out. But that was just enough.
Yeah.
That was enough. Like, oh, how dare you talk to an officer like that? That's really what it is. It's like, how dare
officer
you
was a
talk to me
weenie.
like that?
That like to go back to what y'all was saying about the A personality
Yeah.
or the alpha male thing is. It can be two things, and I don't want to keep jumping back and forth. Either the
No,
dude's
let's do
strong and want to flex at the lady, the black woman standing up to, or it could be so many different
many
things.
different
You're black, you're speaking, you're a woman, and I'm talking to you, and I'm in power, and you're not letting me be in power. I have a problem with that. You like demasculating him by like not listening to him, but he like
That's not.
That's the ego
real
again. That's the ego.
The lion, like the lion of the jungle, will stand right next to
You
a
got
little
it.
peon because they know that they're the alpha. No one needs to tell them they're the alpha.
Yeah.
Well,
It's
stop
the
giving
one that
weenies
wants to be the
badges.
alpha. I'm not a lion. I'm a hyena, and now I gotta flex. You know. Like
it's
Meerkat.
so yesterday what I was doing conveniently, you saying that, is I not as a uniformed officer but just as a person did the series of events for Sandy Still Speaks. So I yesterday marched down the street to Houston Tillotson in the remembrance of Sandra Bland,
Nah, that's
right?
dope.
It's beautiful.
The reason behind that, as a black woman, I was recently asked, how do you separate? How do you separate, being a police officer and the person that you are, right? I said there is no separation.
Yep.
All of it links together. Before I see anything, before I go into a situation, I am first going into that situation as a black woman. Will always first go into that situation as a black woman. The policing piece I will get to because I understand the dynamics of policing, right? There's a perspective there that happens, that occurs, that from a community member standpoint, they will think something. And then I can say, from a police standpoint, though, I don't I probably do the same thing. But with the Sandra Bland incident, it was clear to me that he, the officer, was having a very, very, very unprofessional day. He was having a day of he did not want anybody to challenge his power, and he did not know how to react to a black woman at that particular moment. When I see Sandra Bland, when I see her videos, because she posted videos all the time, when I see her, I see my aunts. I see my mother, who is very much an opinionated woman, just like Sandra Bland. I see myself, because I am a very opinionated black woman. And the fact that a police agency and a police officer did not have mindfulness in that situation, did not have patience, which subsequently led to a series of events that led to her death. I cannot tolerate, I cannot be a part of, and if there is something that is to remember her, I am going to be a part of it, because first and foremost, I'm a black woman.
Respect.
Speaking of Sandy Speaks, it's so ironic. If those of you that are watching that don't know this, I really want you to know this. We were talking about how the divine sets us up, for our purpose and how it's just like that. if you go and look up Sandy Speaks and the videos, like she was a strong advocate for the things that we're talking about. And in her last video, like one of the last videos she makes, she's talking about police brutality in a very I don't want to say irony, but reflection of what took place for her, like in her last video. And it's something really incredible to watch, that she's talking about this and then it shows up and manifests as exactly as what she is talking about in the video. And it's just such a conundrum. And I say that to say that you can kill a person, but you can't kill the movement. And sometimes it is that thing that propels you. Maybe nobody would have saw those videos. Maybe nobody would have saw but because of the threat to her that was not righteous, her voice got to be heard and echoed throughout.
Was it like a martyr? Is that the word?
Martyr.
You know, I'm just saying, like, if propelling the cause has to deal with taking me,
send me off then. If it awakens, raise a consciousness and brings peace levels up higher and stuff like that, off me. You know what I'm saying? Because I can die for nothing. I can die in a car crash as meaningly. I can die from cancer. I can die from, you know what I'm saying, anything random. So if I can die in the progress of my people, kill me. Kill me.
And so I say that to say that it only propelled her further. What was made to kill her propelled her cause further. And we're going to say that. You said that 3 male officers beat you?
3 male officers.
Weenies.
This was in 2010, right here in Austin, 6th Street.
What were the abrasions left?
So I had abrasions on my forehead. I had I still have bruises to this day. Ended up having to do a little bit of rehab. It was pretty intense. I shared my story for the first time last year when we did big data. And I was on a panel actually with 3 other officers. And that was the first time I was that close to another officer since my own situation. And it's so funny, that was actually a healing experience for me, and I won't go too deep into it because I know we'll kind of save some of the work that Measure does for later, but like now I can actually be friends with officers, and I have, the chief of, police phone number in my phone. But a lot of that comes from being able to have that conversation, being able to have that dialogue, and now see someone outside of their uniform but see who they are, right? And then being comfortable enough to now share my story so that I can empower other people to not only speak up, but support causes that prevent those situations from happening. One of the things that Measure really focuses on is surfacing the research and surfacing the data to enforce change, right? And so how are the officers being trained? You mentioned something really powerful. It starts with the recruitment, right? So like, how are we measuring or validating that recruitment process? Right, and who's really examining the types of personalities that are being recruited, and what their level of EQ is, right?
Yep,
because it's great that you may understand the playbook, you may have been able to pass all your tests, but who are you at your core? What are your values? And I really, I feel like that happened for a reason. You talked about divinity, right? Like, I was in that situation to now be here with the 4 of you, right? Like, it's like we're here together because of the situations that we've experienced. Now we can talk about it, heal through it, and hopefully help others go through the same.
Let's go ahead, since we're on Measure, let's dig a little bit deeper. Measure is an organization that's actually doing a very, in my mind, effective approach, most needed approach. Anytime you have an organization that's bringing data, which Measure is doing, there's going to be more opportunities for success. So concerning APD, concerning police officers, because it's not just Austin Police, y'all are really expanding out.
Absolutely.
What kind of data have y'all found so far? Like, for example,
arrest data, right? Police brutality. We're even looking at the education system. So we have a project right now with the Pflugerville Independent School District. And a lot of the work that we're doing is trying to prove and share data that shows that there are a lot of discrepancies. Why are, young black boys being targeted at 3.5 times more than, white students or Hispanic students or other races? And so being able to partner with those organizations to show them that our reports show them our data, then puts the responsibility on them to make change, right? Because we're showing you the data. This is not someone saying this is a one-off situation, or this is not someone saying this is my opinion, or this is what I think is happening.
This is facts.
This is facts. And how do you counter that? You can't.
And when you're saying that, I'm reminded. Let me know, like, did you get into fights when you were in school? Because I most certainly did, like, a lot. I went to 5 different schools, middle schools, because of fighting. I was a little bit of a rascal. That's why I met him through boxing.
I got into some fights. That's just because people picked on me.
I don't remember them taking us to jail, though.
No, they did not. Actually, I didn't even have officers in any of the schools that I went to.
Like, kids are gonna fight.
Mm-hmm.
It's just part of it.
People are
That's what
gonna
happens.
fight. It's human.
But especially youth, like, psychologically putting them in handcuffs. Like, what happened to, like, you need to go home for the rest of the day?
Right. Take some time to reflect, or
No,
a simple
we're
suspension.
training you for your future.
Absolutely.
You're gonna love those handcuffs, because you'll see them in the future. Because you're gonna
Get used to them.
It's five males, black males in the room. 3 of y'all going to jail, and 1 of y'all dying before high school.
And if you think that this is a joke, I mean, the numbers of mass incarceration in America speaks loud and proud that this is a business, a multi-billion-dollar business.
So if it's their job to lock us up, it's their job to find a reason to, like. I don't even want to go on that. I'm gonna say this: before even knowing that you were what you were, I understood and I connected with you as a person. You know what I'm saying? And on top of that, you're a black woman. On top of that, I almost respect. You know what I'm saying? I respect all women. But 2 things I want to say: maybe there should be more black females as officers. You know what I'm saying? Because they have an understanding and can handle it. You know what I'm saying? The negative situations. I seen bad kids get smacked right into you know what I'm saying? It's not that got to be a physical thing. And I also seen a black female handle stuff in an elegant manner with some finesse. And sometimes you need to be absurd, you know what I'm saying, assert yourself, and sometimes it needs some finesse. And to round all that up, I was saying that you as a person, I connected you as a person, and maybe the people should want to protect and serve in they self. You know what I'm saying? Then you know what I'm saying, or maybe the people should have more of a selection of the people that they have and protect them, and then more sure that we feel more protected because the people that's protecting us we don't have no connection to.
Mm-hmm. He was complimenting you about your personality, and then I was like, "She's the officer," and he was like, "What?"
Yeah,
like, he's like, I can't tell.
That's one of the things we love. Erica often will come to our events in her regular clothes, civilian clothes, without her uniform. Yeah. And so I don't know
it's a point.
I don't know until you speak and people get to know who you are. They probably don't assume.
Some officers have such an ego that I can tell them out of uniform.
Even out of uniform,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like they mosey when they walk. There's like a little mosey.
I made it a point. I made it a point. A lot of times when I tell people about my my growth into community policing, there was a growth because obviously I have been educating myself forever. But the growth happened because I read this research article about police legitimacy. What I found in that particular research article was basically what they're saying is people don't care about the tickets you give them. They do not care necessarily about them going to jail. What they care about above all else is how you treat them. Right? So you get a lot of those conversations of, yeah, she gave me a ticket, but she cool though.
Right.
She cool. She was nice. She was respectful and all this stuff. Yeah, I got this ticket. I did something wrong, but she was real cool through the process. So what I did was I took that article and the concepts within that article, and I developed the way I decided that I wanted to be a police officer with that article. So what that meant was if there is an opportunity for me not to be in uniform, I'm going to take it. If there is an opportunity for me to socialize with people outside of police events that I have to do in uniform, I'm going to take it. Because what that means is people will see me in different dynamics. I mean, there was a time I was in the club. doing club things. I was in the club doing club things.
Okay.
And this lady, she tapped me on the back of my shoulder, and I turned around. She's like, "You're my district rep." I was like, "Yes, that is me. You want to dance?" She was like, "Yeah." So that thing is what I'm trying to build family, is what it is. I take on more so of a tribal mindset of, these are my people. This is how my people want to be policed. This is the way they want me to interact with them. So now I get calls to, hey, I'm about to make some collard greens and some cornbread and some yams, and I know how you feel about food, Erica. So if you want to come over and we can talk about, yes,
Miss Danielle.
yes, I am there. I am there. So I took this article and I made it into this thing where I understood that people value the humanity aspect, the emotional connection, opposed to the enforcement, because people will not care if I have to put a sticker on their vehicle and, hey, you need to do this. The enforcement piece of my job, if they know it's me, it won't be an issue, because they know that I'm doing something not because I want to enforce, but because this is my job, and they know I have to do my job, but they know that they have already connected with me, and that's how I police.
I've been doing a lot of work in the prisons for years, like 10 plus years. I've interacted with so many different officers, and not so much now, not so much now in this later years, but in the beginning years, like when there wasn't as many POC officers. I know this is going to sound crazy, but sometimes it was the POC officers that would act the most hard, not so much now. It's changed, but I would be like, wait a minute, you're the one who should be understanding and lenient. And sometimes they would be even more unfair to the people that were incarcerated.
It's a fine line. Think about just the culture of itself, police culture back then, right? So we're talking about the war on drugs era. We're talking about officers that made it into a system that is inherently not made for them, because there wasn't reform with testing. There wasn't all this reform to recruit Black officers. That wasn't the case back then, right? So we're talking about older officers that really just wanted to protect their job and protect their retirement. Now you have officers like myself that they question things. Say, why do I have to do that? On patrol, that was most of my supervisors knew I was going to ask why. So they would send out a blanket message and say, we have to do this initiative, and then I'd get another message, and we are doing this because XYZ. I am one of the older millennials, right? I ask why. I want to know the reasons behind the things that I have to do, but I don't allow the culture to consume me. Actually, I stay clear of anything that is culture, police culture related, because there's so much that goes into that. I would rather be more connected to my community than this blue line facade, right? As a law professional, I don't believe in separating myself from my community. So you have older officers that were really just trying to make it up there, make it to the top, and then just retire and just stay quiet. Now that isn't the case. Now you have the millennials that will ask questions, and they will leave in a quick flash. Yeah, because
they have nothing to lose.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe
and they don't
be the different.
They don't have anything to lose, because most of them are educated now, right? Okay. So if they leave the department, they can literally get another job.
A lot of options.
That makes us a lucrative bunch, because we know that we don't. I could literally leave APD and go to a university and teach. Figures. And I could make more money outside of the department. Right. And I know that. So I don't have anything to lose at this point. For me, it's just about doing it the way I think my community members want me to do it. And that, to me, is powerful, and that's why I stay.
You know, years back, Midtown was on fire, and it had leaked that officers had said, burn, baby, burn, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did y'all hear about that?
Mm-hmm.
So, being that you're close to vicinity, I mean, you work with officers, inquiring minds want to know, like, do you get a sense that there's people there that have that type of spirit? Like, or do you get a sense with the interaction that most people there don't have malicious intent? Or no, you see that there's, you know what I'm trying to say? Like,
Yeah, it's what I have, because I've been trying to find the words and or a book that basically describes what I feel is happening. And there's a book that I've read recently that hit the nail on the head for me, because I was trying to talk to people about spectrums. But what it is there are various traumas that are happening to people simultaneously. When you think of police culture, that in itself brings forth trauma. Like when I was on patrol, I would literally take in negative energy for 40 hours a week. That's basically what it is. No one's calling me to say, hi, I'm going to make you food.
Right.
People were calling me because there was a problem. They hear somebody fighting. Somebody's trying to take their things. There is a negative energy that I am consuming as an officer for 40 hours. Now think about that. You are consuming this negative energy. Now it's a part of your energy. You go to the next call, you get that energy. You go to the next call, you get that energy. You keep going to the point where now somebody is questioning your authority. After you done spent all your freaking day dealing with negative energy, then what happens?
Explode.
It comes out.
You've been a sponge.
Exactly. So I think that there is trauma that is related to being a police officer, and that no one thinking about the mental health of police officers, and thinking about how we can heal them as people so they can go out and do the job that they want, the community wants us to do, and how they want us to do it. And have a holistic approach to reform opposed to just focusing on policy. No one is focusing on the actual officer. Because I know that feeling. I know the feeling of literally being talked down to, being spat on, getting into fights with people, walking into an apartment and somebody waiting on you to shoot themselves. Right?
oh my
Think about the trauma that happens to you as a person.
Wow, Erica, oh
right?
my goodness.
And then you go to the next call after you just dealt with that trauma, right? You dealt with that trauma, you wrote it up, and now you have this feeling that you just walked in on somebody and said, I'm waiting for you, clap, and just off themselves. And then you have to process that and then do the policy stuff. Okay, start this, go write the report. You still have 2 hours left and you have to keep going. People don't think about that. So there's a trauma that happens with police.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's
There
pretty
is there's a trauma that happened with white bodies, period. Right? Because what I think is happening is genetically they're carrying trauma too. They're carrying trauma from their ancestors who were rapists, that were slave masters, and then and research has shown that can be passed on to genetics.
If alcoholism can,
Right?
I don't see why not.
So
Traits.
that's passed on genetically. So now you have a white police officer
With power.
who has all of this trauma to deal with. And now you have black police officers that have a different type of trauma to deal with as well.
Ooh,
So now you have conversations. Now I stop somebody because there was a call that this person matched the description. Now I stop somebody and they see me in my uniform. They give me their trauma is what's happening. They give me their emotions. That's probably linked to trauma. I give them trauma back. We are both giving each other trauma to the point where somebody pops. Right?
The inevitable happens.
And I think that is the essence of what is happening.
I think
Agreed.
you summed it up
I've never honestly sat there in front of no police officer and to be like, I feel you, understand, and like feel for you. You know what I'm saying? Because you wake up every day with the intent to protect and serve and try to do stuff to your best ability, and you gotta sit there and deal with people calling you with their problems every day, all day, and not even know how to positively communicate those things to you in a manner, and it's probably hard dealing with a lot of me's. You know what I'm saying? Like I wouldn't want to deal with multiple me's all day, on a bad day, repeatedly, every day. I probably couldn't do it. I don't wear hats, but if I had a hat, I take my hat off and tip it to you, cause I can feel and like it's out here. Like I don't know if y'all see it, but I feel it. Like I see it through your expressions and like just your aura, man. Like you take on a lot just to even wake up and do that, and you do it willingly and try to do it in a peaceful, positive manner. And if more people could be like yourself, or if you can sprinkle some of that water on some of your
Trying to.
your gang members, it might be all right.
That's
I'm
what
trying
it's
to.
Change you wanna
actually
see,
all
and that's
about.
exactly what she's
It's
doing.
for people to witness two different sides of the spectrum, to people to get to peer into the life of a police officer and get to peer into somebody that feels like they're targeted repeatedly by police officers and what that feels like, you know? And it's, you know, something that I think through dialogue, people can say, wow, you know. Also, I think there's a culture between, like we talked about earlier about David Chappelle, white people see police very different than other communities do. Like, we don't call the police because the person that might be coming served in Iraq, and you don't want them coming over there, right? Like, these are the things that we think, you know?
I'm not calling for help because you might kill me or take me to jail.
So there's certain things that other communities don't really have to take into consideration. And so what I'm saying is that there might be a community that the minute they see a police officer, they respond a certain way, like, why are you always messing with me? And you give an aura. And so Erica brings to the table that dealing with a certain thing repeatedly can make you like be anticipation that you're going to be dealing with that as well. So we're like getting close to the end of time, and I want to drop one more bomb before we head out. I always say this, I'm a poet, and sometimes I feel like poets are susceptible to conspiracy theories, and I have one, and I want to see what y'all think about it. I want to see what y'all think about it. So we see a lot of images of police brutality in the media, but these things have been going on for a long time. Mighty long time. Mighty long time. So one would say, you know, well, this is the era of videos now. Like there's cameras now that you can capture it. I have this like kind of conspiracy theory that says that like this happens if you data measure. If you knew the data on how this type of interaction goes within the United States of America a day, and how much it might be captured on footage and so forth, it seems to me sometimes that the footage that is leaked to the media all the time about police brutality has a couple elements to it. It has an element that there's always a variable that can cause you to choose sides. Like there's always this questionable wave of variable that makes you be like wanting to side with the officer on that. Well, if they had not had an attitude, well, if they had just complied with the officer, because there's plenty of footage out there that you'd be like, oh, hold up, that's wrong. That doesn't really make it like that. The footage that we seem to get the most of is a footage that it divides, right? The people that are stone cold, I'm with the police officer through and through, and then the person that's like, nah, we're sick of cops being like that. And those are the things that we see the most. Am I tripping? Do you think that might be true? Like,
I think the media does what they
It was
do
the
well,
me- that's
right?
that's what the media is for. It's
exactly
for
what the
it's
media
programming you to
does.
think and feel a certain type of way. And it's designed to divide.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? The people in the police is not. Let's talk about this and I'll shut up.
no,
All right.
let's not. Don't shut up and let's talk about it.
All right, police ain't nothing. All right, when slaves was free, but when they was freed, police wasn't nothing but white folks going to catch black people or the and this,
Right. That's how they were founded, is what you're saying. Yeah.
and the same principles are to today, like to the I don't want to talk about the gentrification, but it's about the when the people were called homeless, but it's not a homeless word. It's a homeless word, but I don't know.
Transient?
Squatter, transient.
Something like that, but basically, if you ain't got no job, you going to jail. You know what I'm saying?
Unemployed.
Nah, it was something else.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, those same guidelines of chase and conquer of the
Indentured servant, is that what you're talking about?
nah,
Oh, okay,
it's basically like not a squatter, but it's like it's called being basically it's being unemployed.
Okay.
If you ain't got no job and you ain't got no house, you going to jail. They was just picking people up,
Yeah.
and due to like you can't be over here, you can't be over there, or the social boundaries of everything. And basically, when people were set free, their job was to keep niggas in order. But like the policies the black code never changed. You know what I'm saying? It's still the same. It's still on the same principles. Like the police was never to arrest white people for doing nothing. It was to keep the people that was less under the law, abiding the law, to keep the other people from tripping out. You know what I'm saying?
Because slavery is permissible if you're incarcerated.
Yes.
Yeah.
You gotta explain that to me, cause
It's in the Constitution.
So people
Yeah.
think that slavery ended, but it didn't end. Like, basically, if you are incarcerated,
you can be a slave.
You are a slave, yeah.
And this is and this is what I'm gonna
Modern
say, because I'm not
slavery.
the smartest person, and that's why black people and the other people are purposely the laws are you. That's why I'm getting harassed. That's why that's why you're gonna get beat up.
Right.
That's simple as that. And that's why we need more people like you, so it's not happening like that, because you have the understanding and you realize it. But at the end of the day, the laws are set up for us to be like that anyway.
like, there's one facility that I think of. I believe that they make about $16 a day. It's not in Texas. Working, you have to have a job while you're there. You have to, and you make about $16 off that job. So that's free labor, basically, almost free
course.
labor. They're making money off of families sending sending money for them to buy socks, Cheetos, whatever. And then let's not even get to how much money is made off of phone calls alone.
Gosh.
I mean, there's just so
It's
much
the
money.
hustle.
There's so
Business.
much money.
Yeah, I'm gonna further your conspiracy.
Please.
What I believe is there is a direct action to divide. The reason being is both sides are making money off of the divide, right? You have private institutions that are making money off of the divide. You have gun agencies that are making money off of the divide, because now people want to arm themselves because they feel threatened.
The fear.
Right? Now we have that. The divide itself could be possibly orchestrated
It's
to make-
necessary
to
to make
make
the money.
money.
Yep.
They need the fear. They need to fear
And
you.
control,
They need
right?
to arrest you so they can make the money off of housing you, et cetera, et cetera. You know what I'm saying? So like, I don't have the answer for it.
When a people can only provide for their means right now, that's what you did for a slave. You clothed them,
Yep.
you fed them,
Shelter.
you sheltered them. So there's only one difference here. You get to drive off the plantation. Well, there's two. You get to drive off the plantation. And no, that's just it.
That's
you get to
it.
drive off
That's it.
because
Yeah.
even
You don't
in
get
that
to live.
scenario, you let one or two come up so that there could be a, thing. So that's
And then those people who come up never or rarely ever pull anybody back up, because now they're up.
Right.
They feel up with the upper echelon. They don't have to. They don't. Why would I help? I don't have to, like. And everything is like, I don't want to be like Willie Lynch. Like, everything goes back to slavery. We train to be like that. You know what I'm saying? I let one of y'all be up, but now you're gonna tell on all those other ones. You know what I'm saying, over there. But we let you sit at the table with us, but we're not gonna respect you. You know what I'm saying? Like, I love this show. This is dope. If you ever have another one, definitely invite me. I'll be more prepared. I'll go read a couple.
I think you were prepared just being you and bringing that dynamic to the conversation, and so much information has come forth. Do you have any thoughts going on, swirling around? Or you just
no,
listening?
for sure. I mean, based on this conversation, I just want to highlight this is exactly what our goal is at Measure, right? Having those open conversations. Being able to have different perspectives, contribute to the conversation, and then being able to, now I think we've all have different insight, right? You're going to probably walk away thinking about the stress that maybe a police officer has to go through in their role,
Still gonna stay
right?
away from y'all last. I'm still aware.
Do what you gotta do.
But I'm sure now one thing that I saw here, and I know you saw this as well, empathy. Right, being able to empathize with both sides, and I think that's really the key, and that's what this platform allows us to all do.
One quick question though, and I don't want to be on the. I hate to be racial, but everything is. I don't care. Everything's racial, regardless if we accept it or not. So, do you think is it easier for you to empathize because you're a black female? Why the fact that a white male or somebody that's not like is that why is it easy for you to empathize, or like I don't know your upbringing, but you seem like you have like, and I don't want to say like black people or a ghetto person like myself from O2 Booker T Projects can't articulate myself as well as you, but I can say maybe you haven't come from the slums, you know what I'm saying? And if you did, you articulate yourself very well, but I don't think you did. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying you didn't come from nothing. You know what I'm saying? No hard knocks or nothing like that. But if me, it come off that you come from a good cloth of family, a good background. And if not, I'm wrong. But for somebody with a good educational like yourself to be able to empathize with somebody from someone less educational, educated as you is, like, is it because you black?
Yes.
That's a fair question.
Yes.
That's a fair question.
And I say that with conviction. Yes, because going back to the family piece that you're talking about, in my earlier years, I grew up in the suburbs. Later on, I ended up growing up in affordable housing, right? So the earlier years, I had a different perspective, but the cloth that kind of connected all of it was my family. They ended up in police interactions, right? My mother is a felon. She got out. First off, she was pregnant. They allowed her to have the child and then go back to jail. Okay. So there wasn't a direct connection with my sister, and they still don't have like a mother-daughter relationship. That isn't there because she had to go to jail. The reason why she went to jail is there was this pastor that was sexually harassing her. And she, being from New York and having that accent and that thing, she's like, you say one more thing to me like that, I come to you for help and I'm going to blow up this church. That was back then when you could not say anything about blowing up a church. She went to jail for that. She went to jail. She went to jail for that. And she was in jail for a while for that. My brother is a convicted felon. My brother was running away from some bullies that were trying to take his laptop. He jumped into a window of a house to hide. The owner of the house was there and basically kept him at gunpoint until the police got there. And then he got charged with burglary.
What did he steal?
He didn't steal anything. He jumped in the window. So these police interactions are the things that kind of got me into the direction of policing. I recognize that there was this thing happening and that empathy was not happening. It was just, I have this, you go to jail. Yep. I have this, you go to jail. Mm-hmm. And that's how it started. So yes, it has something to do with me being black, and it has something to do with the fact that there's experiences that are linked that I think a lot of my white counterparts do not have. They don't understand. So yes, I Yeah, I concur with that.
We are closing and running out of time quickly. That we're just barely. It's all these conversations. There's so much always you could go deeper. You know,
We could be here for the next
yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah, and I wonder through conversations like this, you know, sometimes people make assumptions about a culture. Like they'll say, "Oh, they're all drug dealers," or all, and then you say something like, "I've had these conversations with racist people," and I say, "What would you do if you can't get a job anywhere?" Like, you know, and sometimes like if you give another perspective, then they look at something differently. And that was just an example of something.
That's a perfect example.
Yeah. So, and then what like didn't they do that with some of your ancestors did that with alcohol when it was prohibition, you know?
right.
Shoot, now the same people that are selling weed, you know how much time people went to jail for weed, and now it's about to be legalized like that, and the stigma that was put on people that were selling weed. So it's just
now the
so
government
much,
illnesses and all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
so much. But hopefully more people become aware and change their perception of things and see different perspectives of it and be like, that's very interesting. And so hopefully you all watching have been impacted by this conversation in some way. And I just thank you all so much for watching, and I thank you so much to our guests for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for the platform.
Thank you.
Thanks. See you next time.
Dose.
Intellectually engaging to think outside the lines with conversation about the nation that never leaves you blind. Take a listen and pay attention. Here is where you find the educational, sensational meeting of the minds. Yeah, it's the meeting of the minds.